Welcome everybody to our webinar with our senators. Sorry for the technical glitches. We've got a packed presentation, so we'll try to get right to it. I'll just remind you that on May 8th, we have Assemblywoman Oroho from the 25th District, and we have our senators here. We have a few brief changes we'll get to in the program, but first, I would like to welcome Mike Stanzillas, Vice President of the Chamber, who is going to be making some announcements and then introduce our sponsor. Thank you.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Good morning. And Alan, thank you for chairing the Government Affairs Committee and doing such a great job putting together this amazing panel of senators. And thank you, senators, for being part of this. So, the Chamber, back on March 16th, we had to pivot to a virtual chamber. But, we wanted to continue with what we do with connecting businesses, facilitating, educating, and really what we're doing today is government advocacy and connecting you, our businesses, with these very important elected leaders, and you can have a voice with them today. And so, we're the new virtual chamber. We've got a lot of stuff going on. And again, next week, we've got some really great events I just want to quickly talk about. We have how to look your best on Zoom and meeting calls so we don't see the top of your head or up your nose, and it's a great event. Sharon Kornstein will be on it. She's a stylist. We have 5-time Emmy Award-winning makeup artist Eve Pearl and an award-winning news anchor and Emmy Award winner Carrie Barrett, and that's Tuesday at noon. Wednesday, we've got managing employees and providing safe workplace during COVID-19 presented by Bruce Groves of Emilcott. And then Friday, we have from stagnant sales to hyper growth, leveraging metrics to overcome a plateau, presented by Roseanne DeTorres of DeTorres and DeGeorge Family Law. So again, the Chamber is here for you. We're here to make sure that we're going to keep things in front of you. And again, our mission is your success. I want to pass it back over now to our sponsor, Josh Benson of Tilcon. Josh has been a sponsor of this Government Affairs Committee for quite some time, and he's continuing on in the transition to the virtual chamber. Josh, I can't thank you enough for your sponsorship, and the floor is yours.
Mike, I appreciate that. Thank you. It's been a really great pleasure for myself and Tilcon to sponsor those meetings. Although today I didn't get to send you guys breakfast, but as soon as we get back, I'm sure we're going to have a good one. And senators, I really appreciate your time today. I know with everything going on, it's just been kind of crazy, but we appreciate your efforts in leading New Jersey through this. And I know, especially with your personal responsibilities and business responsibilities, it's been really kind of crazy for you. But thank you for addressing us today and answering some of our questions. I appreciate it.
Josh, thank you very much. Appreciate the sponsorship and support as always. And thank you, Mike. We're going to get right into our program, having our senators speak on the COVID-19 issues. There's one scheduling, or maybe two scheduling changes. Senator Kean had an unavoidable conflict come up in his schedule, and he was unable to join us. He was going to talk about education, and I know we're all affected by that. My son being home today and a senior in high school and spending his senior year at home isn't what we planned. Hopefully he starts college on time like everyone else who has kids in school. And also Senator Pennacchio, I'm not sure if he's on yet. He has to call in, so you won't get to
I'm on. No, I'm having trouble, but can you hear me, Alan?
Yes, we can hear you.
Right,
so that's
good,
great.
Good,
so,
good.
and
I hear you.
You can't stay the whole time, but we'll get to hear his presentation, which will be particularly interesting as he is a medical professional, and so his comments will be particularly poignant right now. But first, we're going to lead off the program with actually, I should say for those of you that don't know, we have a lot of new people on. We have quite a big turnout today. And I'm Alan Zakin. I'm a volunteer chair of the Morris Chamber and Morris ELC. And the ELC is a grassroots affiliate of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. And they have ELCs in each of the 21 counties, and we have speakers from NJBIA that inform us of what's going on in Trenton. And obviously, we have special issues with COVID-19. We have a packed schedule, so we're going to keep everyone to around 3 minutes. And Colette from the chamber will gently let folks know when the time is up. And I think we have 3 minutes for the 3 minutes allotted here, and I think 4 minutes for the senators. But for Chrissy and also Chris Emmicholtz from NJBIA, they're great resources, and I'd like to introduce them at this time to give us a brief update on what's going on in Trenton, and in particular talk about 501c6 business organizations like the Morris Chamber and BIA. Are you there, Chrissy?
Hi, Alan. Good morning, and good morning to everyone on the phone today. As Alan mentioned, we are really appreciative of the Chamber and the Morris, ELC for coming together virtually. I know we have a packed agenda, so I'll jump right in. I am joined by my colleague Chris Emmicholtz, who heads up all of our budget and taxation policy.
Good morning, everyone.
Working around the clock on a lot of different policy initiatives. To our senators joining us today, thank you. And thank you for all of your advocacy in the State House. I know these are unprecedented times. I can assure you at NJBIA, we are working around the clock to assist all of our businesses around the state. We hear you loud and clear on the needs, the challenges that you're facing every single day. And what we are working on from a government affairs perspective is bringing what you're experiencing to our policymakers in the legislature, to the governor's office, and to our federal delegation, so that we can advance policy to get you back up on your feet as soon as possible. We certainly recognize the health pandemic that's at play, but we also know that recovery needs to be discussed as well. And so what have we done about that, and where can we continue to need, and we need your help to keep that message moving forward. So a couple of things. NJBIA has launched a business coalition of over 70 business organizations coalescing behind a unified message on top priority policy issues that need to be addressed. And these can range from more state funding to more federal funding. And so we have been communicating, and I'm sure the senators on the line have been receiving emails from us with these organizations listed, asking for appropriations to get funding into the hands of the business community as soon as possible. We at this point in time have about 20% of our workforce on unemployment. That number is staggering. And so it's critical to make sure that our employers are able to get our employees back on the payroll and available to work. We understand that the state programs have been overly subscribed. We understand that the federal programs have been overly subscribed. And now with this next tranche of money going through, having been approved by the Senate and the House on the federal level, we already know that will most likely be oversubscribed. And so things that we have been asking for is much more flexibility in these programs. The inclusion, as Alan said, we had our coalition send a letter to our entire delegation on the federal level to include C6 organizations as well, which I know is, the Chamber is a 501c6 organization, and to see if they'll be eligible for PPP funding. This round does not have it. We're hearing that the next round, round 4, I think we're up to, may include C6 organizations in that funding source. So I think again, keeping it to 3 minutes, main things we want to convey to you is that you can find on our website our policy documents about that outlines different things that we're asking the legislature to consider to get us back up on our feet as soon as possible. But I would say the most immediate push that we are talking about right now and is timely is that we have been saying from day one that the Federal CARES Act funding coming to the state needs to be spent on programs or funding specifically related to COVID-19 and cannot be used to fill any general budget hole that exists in the state budget. And we all know that there was an approval to move the state budget back to September 30th. There will need to be a temporary budget put in place to cover those 3 months. And what we are saying is, and continue to say, and you'll see another letter coming out from us today again, Senator, so be prepared, that because that funding needs to be spent on COVID-19 related initiatives, to get that funding on the street as soon as possible. And, you know, whether it's EDA, whether it's setting up specific funds to help folks, there are specific needs that need to be addressed. The funding is there, and we are encouraging people to get it on the street as soon as possible. So again, keeping to 3 minutes, we are here for you. We hear you loud and clear. We are communicating as much as we can with the folks on the phone. I have to say that I have personally, and I know Chris has spoken to the senators who are joining you or joining us all here today. They have been reaching out to us. We have been communicating with them, and we'll continue to serve as a resource in any way possible to communicate the needs of the business community. So I just want to pause there, see if Chris has anything to add. Happy to answer any questions. Oh, right on time.
Hi, Chrissy, you said it all. I think what's also important for the members of the Morris Chamber to hear is 5 senators on your agenda today are the ones that are listening to what the business community needs. They're the ones that are the most responsive to when Morris Chamber members, BIA members have concerns. These 5 senators are there to address them and do their best to get them done. And that's a welcome relief. And it also says a lot about the leadership of whether it's Alan with the Government Affairs Committee for the Morris Chamber and Megan and Mike at the Chamber. Morris County senators are delivering. So thank you guys, and thank you, Morris County.
Chris, thank you, and thank you, Chrissy. I mean to cut you off, but I want to make sure everyone has time, and we're asking the senators to limit their remarks to 4 minutes because we do want to have we have a large audience. We want to let them get in questions, and I do want to mention there's a Q&A, and you'll have to apologize. The technical difficulty was honestly my computer. My laptop wasn't working, so I'm using my iPad, so you might see my fingers touching the screen, and that's why. But the Q&A is one of the options there for you to go in and ask questions. So please start typing those as the senators are talking, and I'll get right to that. Also, just one quick thing: we originally had this slated to go till 12:15. We're going to extend it to 12:30. Those of you that have to leave at 12:15, that's fine. But we anticipate a lot of questions and want to try to get them in. So with that. Let me please introduce our first speaker, Senator Bucco, who's going to speak on and has been very involved with business recovery, particularly small and medium-sized business. So welcome, Senator Bucco.
Thank you, Alan. Good morning, everyone. It's always great to be with the Chamber community and with my the Senate colleagues that have a part of their districts in Morris County. Before I begin, I want to take a moment this morning to just think about all the healthcare professionals and first responders that are on the front line today dealing with this crisis. These are unprecedented times, and certainly they are being stretched to the max. So anything that anybody can do to show thanks for their work, whether it's on a Facebook post or take a minute to drop a card to these folks, or even if you can donate to provide lunch for them. I know that it's greatly appreciated by the first responders and the healthcare community. And I just want to thank them for all that they do. Additionally, we are still running short on PPE supplies. So anybody that has access to those, that can get those into the hands of especially the long-term care community, group homes, and some of the other healthcare facilities, that would be greatly appreciated. As I said before, these are certainly unprecedented times. The state is facing massive job losses that we've never seen before. You know, never in our history have we shut down entire segments of our economy overnight. Close to 1 million people have filed or attempting to file for unemployment. This is certainly something that that the state has never faced before, and quite frankly, it's taxing every one of our systems. Small businesses especially are being hit the hardest. And really, there's no state or federal response that would be an overreaction to this crisis. The state's EDA program and the federal payroll protection program that have responded to provide grant and loan programs have been oversubscribed as soon as the application process have initiated. I know that my colleagues and I have asked the administration for more funding for the EDA programs and for more transparency. Just the other day, I was talking to a small business owner who said, look, you know, everybody understands the crisis that we're in and is willing to share the pain equally, but we want to know that everybody's being treated fairly. And I think it's important for the state to make sure that the EDA programs are as transparent as possible, both in the amount of the awards and how those awards are being decided. There's been some good things happening in Trenton, certainly on a bipartisan basis. Some help came last week as the governor signed a bill that I sponsored along with Senator Kean and our budget officer Oroho that extended the tax filing deadlines for both corporate and individual filers to July 15th. That will certainly give a little bit of a break to our business community and was really needed. So that was bipartisan legislation that we're thankful we were able to get through and that the governor signed. Just this week, I am proud to be joining the Morris County Chamber to announce the establishment of a COVID-19 Economic Advisory Committee that we will establish that will have representatives from each segment of the economy here in Morris County that will come together to formulate a plan that we can present to the administration on how to orderly and safely open the economy, both for the employers and for the customers that will be visiting those businesses. You know, I've said from the very beginning that certainly the health crisis is important and needs to take priority. But we can't wait for the health crisis to be over before we begin to deal with the economic side of this crisis. We need to look at various ways that we can begin to open some of our businesses while we continue to deal with the health side of this crisis. I called just a week or so ago on the governor to consider appointing someone within the administration with decision-making authority that would address some of these outside-of-the-box issues for businesses to get back to work safely. You know, that's going to take time, and the guidelines and the procedures and the protocols all have to be developed. For instance, one of the things that I think we could do is car dealerships, for instance, have massive showrooms. There's no reason, while under the proper protocol, that those showrooms couldn't be opened again to allow car dealerships to begin to sell vehicles under certain social distancing guidelines and preparations. Retail stores, our Main Street retail stores, could begin to sell online with curbside pickup.
Excuse me, Senator,
Sure.
Everything you're saying is great, but just if you could save some for questions, we'd appreciate it, just so we could stay on schedule in our program and just wrap up. Thank you.
Sure. But I think those are the things that we need to start to address. And finally, the Senate has passed a number of bills that will help the small business community. Certainly some of the bills that we've already talked about, but there are two bills, Senate 2348, which creates a tax credit program for COVID impacted businesses for employee retention. That passed the Senate, is now awaiting action in the Assembly. Senate 2347, business-related tax deferral program for small business to defer taxes on sales, motor fuels, petroleum products, income taxes, has passed the Senate on a bipartisan basis and is awaiting action in the Assembly. There's also Assembly Bill 38050 and three other companion bills that allow corporations, shareholder meetings to be handled remotely, nonprofit corporations to have remote meetings, as well as local governments to allow business to continue, and projects such as road paving and different construction projects that can be maintained to continue to keep people working. And finally, last night, we know that the House passed a $480 billion aid package, which will put about an additional $300 billion into the payroll protection program, with the balance of that funding going to hospitals and for COVID-19 testing. So there's a lot going on. It's on a bipartisan basis, and I think that we will continue to work to try to focus on getting this economy back up and started again in a safe and orderly fashion. So
Senator, thank you
Al.
for your hard work. Very much appreciated, especially your alliance with the chamber. And with that, I'm trying to pronounce correctly, hydroxychloroquine, Senator Pennacchio. And I know you can't be here on video, and you have some scheduling conflicts. So I'm glad you took the time to call in. And with that, if you can still hear me, you're still there. Please.
Yeah, can you hear me, Alan?
Yep. Please inform us on the
Great,
healthcare
great.
regarding this.
Yeah,
Thank
you absolutely butchered hydroxychloroquine. So you did. Listen,
That's why I'm a lawyer and
I mean,
not a doctor.
and a good one too. I'll be brief, but I think it's important because no matter what we talk about and how we talk about getting businesses back started, okay, and ridding us of this second epidemic of unemployment, they go hand in hand with us taking care of mitigating the problem that we have with the virus itself. Okay, I was a healthcare provider, many of you know, I'm a dentist. I sort of naturally gravitated towards the science of this when things started percolating. I feel very strongly, having spoken to an awful lot of colleagues, having almost 500 independent doctors signing on the early treatment of COVID-19 with hydroxychloroquine. What does that mean? That means you don't wait till you put people on ventilators. You don't wait till you admit people into hospitals before you use the protocol, which includes hydroxychloroquine. It can include zinc, it can include azithromycin. But the bottom line is not what I say it should include. It should be between the doctor and the patient. Unfortunately, the protocol that New Jersey set up says that you either have to be in a hospital to get that. That means you have to already gotten very, very sick, or it means that you are in a nursing home. And we know what happens when you're in a nursing home. When you get very sick, you spread it to everybody else. So the sooner you can get it to that group, the better off that we will be. But the bottom line is, if we do an early treatment, if we're able to mitigate the problems, if we can dampen down the effects of what's going on with this virus, we can all go back to work sooner, because the studies have shown not only does it help as far as relieving the symptoms of what people are feeling and how it's affecting them in their body, but it also decreases the viral load. What does that mean? It means you don't carry as much viruses on you. If you don't carry as much viruses on you, you don't communicate that disease as readily. And isn't that what it's all about as far as us getting back to work? That way we don't communicate that disease between us. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have, Alan, or go on to the next speaker, whatever you'd like to do.
Can't stay on the whole time. Is that right? So perhaps we can entertain, if there are any questions for him, why don't I ask that Mike Sanzos is monitoring the questions, that anyone has questions specifically for Senator Pennacchio, I'll introduce our next speaker, and then we'll break to see if anyone has a question for Senator Pennacchio. Could you stay on for a few minutes, Senator?
I will.
Okay, so I'm going to now go to Senator Steve Oroho, who's a member of the manufacturing caucus that works with the chamber and the BIA and NJBIA and other important groups, and is going to talk about supply chain and logistics, which have had particular focus with this crisis emanating from China. Senator Oroho, great as always to have you with us.
Alan, thank you very much, and thank you for everybody being on a call. And I don't want to repeat what have already been said about the healthcare workers and to thank them and everything that everybody's doing. You guys are all doing. I got to tell you, we have a great New Jersey manufacturing extension program. John Kennedy and Alan, you work very closely with them. Obviously, John's doing a fantastic job in our manufacturers helping out this whole COVID-19. Obviously, they're still considered essential. They're still working. A couple things, obviously, that we have to focus on the supply chain, and we're seeing it right now. Just like in investing, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. We make a lot of expensive machines here, but when the the cotton swab, which is less than 1/10 of 1 cent, is what you need in order to make the test run. That's something we have to make sure that is done here within hopefully New Jersey and the United States, so that we have from start to finish, we can use all our processes and the great equipment that our manufacturers have made. Alan, I just want to real quickly also talk about Senator Sweeney asked Senator Sarlo and I to work with the administration to the idea of getting some plans back up and running. I know Senator Bucco had already touched on it, and I know Chrissy and Chris talked about it as well. We work with BIA in that coalition. I had a discussion with the governor, Senator Sarlo, and I had a discussion with the governor yesterday and others, the treasurer, about getting those plans on the desk. So I said, our industry knows what to do. I know that the BIA and that coalition are working on them, and I think the sooner we get them to his desk, the better. And to me, it's not the issue of we've classified things as essential and non-essential. We really have to classify as safe, and how do we make them safe? And I actually think that obviously think we can do that. We have some good news coming out of Rutgers with respect to the saliva test, but I also want to give some reality as the budget officer on the Republican side. Let me tell you what we're looking at here. And I know with the funding issue, and we've been very aggressive with our federal colleagues, but Moody's Analytics, who were very, very accurate in the Great Recession about how New Jersey's revenues would be affected, they came out with a study, and I've had discussions with the treasurer as well as the governor with respect to what we're seeing. Actually, the administration's numbers are probably just a little bit better than this, but here's what Moody's Analytics put out, and everybody knows Jeff Zandy, who is their chief economist. They really did a great, excellent, forecasting job in 2008. They're expecting over the next 18 months, 15 months, that New Jersey's revenue shortfall will be almost $10 billion. That's a baseline to a worst case scenario of over $13 billion. So obviously that's on a $42 billion annual budget. That's a huge impact. And obviously, when Congress is talking about some money for municipalities and states and counties and school boards and stuff like this, that's what New Jersey is probably in the range of what we're looking at. So we have a very, very big. When the governor said the revenues fell off a cliff, yeah, they did. So I just want to make sure that we set everybody's expectations, because as Senator Bucco said, we're definitely going to have to, everybody, take some haircuts. I could use a haircut right now, actually, but some take some haircuts. So anyway, I just want to give that update, and I'll be around for questions.
Thank you very much. I need a haircut and a shave myself. Mike Stanzilis, do we have any questions for Senator Pennacchio?
We don't have any questions in the Q&A, Alan, just yet. So just want to remind everybody that if you hover at the bottom of your screen, you're going to see an icon that says Q&A, and please type your questions in there.
Okay, I just, Joe would want to tell everyone you wash your hands and be safe, and hopefully we could, as everyone said, figure a way to get back to work, but all be safe and healthy. Joe, do you have any closing remarks? Because I know you have to go on to something else.
Appreciate it, Alan. Everybody be safe, and Alan, learn how to pronounce hydroxychloroquine.
Hydroxychloroquine. Thank you. Do I get my medical degree now? Thank you, Senator, as always, for your support and your help.
Be safe, guys. Be safe.
Thank you very much. So with that, just to keep on schedule, as I said, we don't have Senator Kean. For those of you that signed on late, he had a conflict. I should also say that there's one other senator in Morris County, Senator Cody, former Governor Cody, and he was unable to make it. The legislature's a part-time job, and his other job, he is a funeral director. His family has funeral homes. So as you can imagine, sadly, he's been very busy and distracted, but we look forward to having him sometime in the future. And with that, we have Senator Kristen Corrado, who is the senator from the 40th District and a former county clerk and a former mayor. So she has a good sense of government, and it will talk a little bit about election changes and government resources for this crisis. Senator, great to have you here.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's nice to see everyone, and I echo the statements of my colleagues. We are so incredibly lucky in this state to have wonderful, hardworking people that are just taking wonderful care of our family and friends as we make our way through this unprecedented and uncharted times. We've had some changes to elections. Most of it has been done by executive order by the governor. The first change we had was moving to an online petition format and allowing petitions to be filed electronically for the different elections, whether it was school board, your county candidates, your congressional candidates, and even your party delegates. In March, by executive order, they moved any school board elections or special fire district elections from their scheduled dates in March and April to May 12th. May 12th happens to be the date that towns have their nonpartisan elections, so that date was already scheduled. The other change that was made that's pretty significant and something new for the state of New Jersey is that those elections up till May 12th will all be done by vote by mail. That is something we've never done before, and I guess we'll see how it goes with these smaller elections that are scheduled throughout the state of New Jersey. Another executive order that the governor did was extending the terms of the school board members, just because we pushed the school board elections back, and he changed the deadline for the schools that had budgets rejected. They have a little bit more time to get those budgets in and work with their towns to get the budgets done. In April, and most recently, we also had the change that the primary date was changed from June 2nd to July 7th. At this time, there has not been any decision on whether or not that would be an all vote by mail election. If you asked me, I would think that's absolutely the way we're going. It's a holiday week. It's July 4th week. It's vacation time for a lot of people. Hopefully we'll be back on vacation. It's going to be hard to get board workers anyway, and I think there's a really good possibility at that point that we won't be going to polling sites, that we'll be doing our primary in a vote by mail manner, and hopefully we should have some decision on that on the near future. The one thing you can rest assured is you have fabulous election officials all throughout the state that work really hard. They never say no, they say, how can we get it done? And one of the things I was asked to touch on was resources. And if you haven't signed up for your local legislative's email blasts, I would recommend that you do. We have fabulous staff, executive staff in Trenton. They work hard 7 days a week, and they have really been on top of getting, summarizing on a daily basis what resources are out there. A good starting point just for questions is obviously the COVID-19 New Jersey website. There's a lot of different icons on it, and it's a starting point to figure out what direction you're looking in. And I would encourage you to reach out for us as well to your senators and our staff who are also working 7 days a week. And a lot of us are business owners too, so we totally understand what you're going through. I would say the majority of my day for the last 6 weeks has been fielding unemployment questions and claims, not just from individuals, but from their employers as well. And in my case, you know, a lot of questions about businesses as well. I'm one of the senators that reached out to Chris at BIA for help to walk me through it. And I have to tell you, I'm also one of those people that have been doing all the BIA webinars. So a huge and wonderful resource have been your chambers of commerces and the BIA that are working around the clock to get you the information. Even the information in the email blast on mental health, where you can go for testing. So I would use that. I encourage everybody to sign up for the emails and reach out to us. And if we don't have the answer, we're going to point you in the right direction. And I'm open for questions as well.
Thank you
We
very
have a
much,
question, Alan.
Senator. I think that at first we were going to give our host the prerogative for the first question. I think Josh Benson had a question from Tilcon.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Alan. I know you guys have touched a little bit on this, but the New Jersey fiscal year budget has been extended for 3 months. However, appropriations still need to be made to fund the state through this extension. Given the unavoidable dramatic shortfall in revenue, additional expenses and uncertainty, and then also restrictions with regard to federal spending, funding, what are the areas that you expect to suffer the greatest impact? And how can we make sure that there are adequate funds for essential government services?
I'll take that. Let's start, and everybody could jump in. This is Steve Oroho. As I said, I'm probably in setting, to me, it was important to set the right expectations, because obviously, Josh, there's going to have to be, some, whether it be a county, a municipality, a school board, the state. Obviously, it's going to depend upon how much the federal government is able to help. But at the same time, I know the Senate Republicans on the Budget Committee had sent out, and we keep asking that the right expectations be set, because there hadn't really been anything out other than, I know the governor said the revenues had fallen off the cliff, but I know that, even in recent discussions we've had with respect to, the school boards and the municipalities and the counties and stuff, is that everyone is going to have to understand that how is it that we keep some of the liquidity for them, so that obviously they can pay their bills, but they also have to be, we wanted to give as much flexibility as we the Republicans, between the municipalities and counties and schools, to say, listen, some of you don't have the cost that you would have been having with respect to, tax receipts. Some of those tax receipts are obviously coming from escrow accounts. So maybe some municipalities are in better shape than others. So we didn't want to have a one size fits all, but one of the key things is going to become obviously what areas of the budget that can be looked at. And we've tried to seriously encourage the governor. I think the Republican leadership sent a letter asking to set the right expectations. And right now, I do think that the administration is hoping that most of the revenue shortfall will be made up by the federal government. I think that's highly unlikely to happen. And quite frankly, we have to, everybody has to expect that their pencil has to be really, really sharp, and expect that there's going to be cuts coming to everybody. So that's where we are. And until we actually get down to see, okay, what the real cash flow is coming in. But to me, we've got to set that expectation now that, sharpen your pencil as sharp as you can get it, because there are cuts coming. There's no doubt.
Okay, Senator Oroho, we do have another question for you. And it's specific to the Make New Jersey Affordable program that you and Senator Sweeney are working on. And there's a few other questions, but they all revolve around how we're going to make up our shortfalls in the budget, which you're already sort of addressing. So if you want to get into that a little more.
Sure, and actually, and Mike, thank you very much for that question, because we did the Path to Progress report, and one of the things we were trying to say out, and that was addressing cost structural problems we had even before this happened, and I think this makes it even more important that we look at some of those. Like, for example, we did pass a law with respect to the health care in the Senate. I hopefully that the Assembly will take it up. I'm not sure if my colleagues. I don't think the Assembly has taken it up just yet. But we also had the idea of a new hybrid plan, and it started with employees 5 years and less. Quite frankly, I think we got to start somewhere. Even if we started with new employees, we need to have a new I think we need to have a new kind of, obviously a pension plan. The hybrid plan was a part of a defined benefit up to the first $40,000, and the rest would be a defined contribution plan. Obviously, a lot of people would like to go to a defined contribution plan right away. The problem with that is you got to freeze the plan and come up with the money. And that's about $115 billion. It's probably gotten worse yet. So we needed some contributions, obviously, still going into the older plan. But those are things, and Chris Emmerholtz served on that committee with me, and we are pushing that some of the recommendations that are in that report now, more than ever, it becomes a necessity. It was a necessity before, but it's even more of an emergent reason to do some of those cost reductions now.
Thank you. Alan, you had a question on workers' comp, I believe?
Yes, yeah. A number of our chamber members and BIA coalition has had a question regarding a pending bill, Senators, S2380, being introduced in the Senate, would establish a rebuttable presumption that any essential employees who contract COVID-19 retroactive to March 9th, 2020, would have contracted the illness from their employer, who would then be liable for workers' comp, disability, and paid leave for the duration of the illness. Do you know if the Senate President has plans to put this bill on the fast track? And what is the possibility of reasonable amendments to limit onerous liability costs due to our business, labor, healthcare, and among other concerns would have a chilling effect, I believe, on reemployment of furloughed workers.
I hate to jump in again, but I did have some discussions on this, and then I'll shut up and everybody else can see. But I'm going to be the prime sponsor of the bill with respect to the furlough program, where actually you could save about $750 million at the state, county, and municipal levels, because since New Jersey had a furlough law or a program already in place back when Governor Christie was governor, we put in place, I think it was 2011 or 2012. But since we have a program in place already, the CARES Act will cover 100% of those costs. All right. Now with respect to the workers' comp, and there's some discussions going on. The bill that was put forward, actually, to tell you, I think we make some changes that there will be one, from what I understand, that we can have, it may not even be necessary because the research we have done shows that the U.S. Department of Labor under the CARES Act will cover that. So hopefully there won't even be a need for the bill, or that it can be amended so that that New Jersey gets more of the federal money with respect to having employers covered for that workers' comp out of federal dollars. So that's the latest stuff that I have.
Thank you.
Yeah, Alan, this is Tony Bucco. The bill is relatively new. I haven't heard whether or not it's going to be on the fast track, but I do think that my colleagues from the Republican caucus are interested in working with Senator Sweeney to make sure that the bill doesn't have unintended consequences. So, we've had a great relationship with him, and things have been going on a bipartisan basis now to make sure that we're doing the right thing during this crisis. So, I think we'll have further discussions on the impacts of that bill, and certainly our caucus will be involved, hopefully in shaping the final version, if it's needed at all.
Right.
Great. Thank you. So we have another question. This is for Senator Bucco. What would the timing and conditions need to be to begin lifting the stay-at-home order? Also, what would the timing for the state to release its reopening plan be?
Yeah, well, listen, if you have the answer to that, I need some numbers for the lottery tomorrow night. That's hard to say. Look, I think it's going to deal with the facts and the science. I think we need to continue to be vigilant and to watch where the numbers are. We certainly don't want to jump the gun and have the rates go up again. So, But I think what we need to be doing now is to start thinking about how we're going to do it when the appropriate time comes, whether that's in 2 weeks or a month. We have to have those plans in place so that we can slowly but surely start opening the economy in a safe manner. And I think we can do that now. I think there are certain industries that we might be able to open up earlier, even while the stay-at-home ban is on. There's certain ways we can do things. Look, we're allowing craft-to-craft breweries to deliver their product to customers. The golf courses are certainly something that we need to start considering. Those facilities, golf courses cost millions of dollars to maintain. And if we don't give them the ability to at least get some people out onto the course, we run the risk of losing those facilities, forever. So, and let me tell you, if a golf course goes under, that's one big chunk of property that we're going to have to deal with. So there are ways to start looking at some of these things. We got to consider, the ability for social distancing, keeping people safe, but that's going to take time. It's going to take guidelines, it's going to take regulation. So in order to get that done and do it in a time frame when things start to loosen up a little bit, we got to start that process now.
Great. Thank you. We have another question here. This is, it's kind of on the same thing. What is the status of PPEs in the state and the likelihood of the state confiscating masks, gloves, and so forth from private companies?
Well, I would hope that we don't come to a point where the state begins to confiscate, that equipment. I can tell you that I think the mask and the glove situation is a little bit better than it was before. There is right now, as I understand it, a shortage on gowns. I know that the fireman's home here in Boonton is in desperate need of gowns for its staff. So, and I've heard that in a number of other facilities. So look, the healthcare facilities are going through these products quickly. And as the numbers increase in some of the long-term care facilities, the higher the demand is for those products. So we have to continue to keep getting those into the proper hands, making sure that people aren't hoarding what they have, and that when people send out a distress call for need for those products, that it's a reality. Sometimes people jump the gun on these things. We got to make sure that we're delivering these products in a timely fashion, in a priority order, and in the order of need. So I think it's getting a little bit better. So I hope we never see the state step in to try to confiscate this equipment. And I just think that as long as people continue to act rationally and get the product into the hands of those that need it, we should be okay.
Alan, if I could just jump in there real quick, and
Please.
I want to echo what Senator Bucco had said, but also I want to give a shout out to Colonel Patrick Callahan, who leads, he's the superintendent of the state police, and he also leads the New Jersey Office of Emergency Management. With everything that he has going on, and because Senator Bucco had mentioned the gowns, I know he has an order into the White House for 2 million gowns. I know he sent me the text the other night. So hopefully that at least some of that stuff will be coming through. But I know our Office of Emergency Management, and Senator Bucco's a volunteer fireman for 30 years and so this. But I got to tell you, they Patrick Callahan, Colonel Callahan, and his team doing the best they can with respect to getting that PPE. Yeah, the mask and the gloves are in much better shape, but also also prioritizing it as to where it has to go. So,
yeah, and I think we can't stress enough that when people reach out to our offices, if there's a need, they really need to make sure that there's a need, because the last thing that we want to do is to be calling the Department of Health or calling the colonel and saying, hey, we've got a real situation up here when those folks that are in charge of distributing that equipment find out that the facility is sitting on a case and is just concerned that they may run out next week. You know, people have to be rational about when they ask for this stuff so that it can be given out in a priority order and at a time of real need.
Great, thank you. We have a comment and a suggestion with a question wrapped into it from Freeholder Director Deborah Smith. And she wants to suggest that enable our residents to defer their mortgage payments during the crisis with no interest charge and add the missed payments onto their mortgage. So if their mortgage ends in June 2030 and they missed 3 months, then add that to the end and extend their mortgage to September 2030. Perhaps we can start that in New Jersey and bring it to the federal government is the question.
There's actually a
Mike,
bill.
excuse me, Senator, before you go, I just want to acknowledge, thank Freeholder Director Smith for that question, and just acknowledge there's some other freeholders on. In fact, I think we have a quorum, and they're working very hard, and we appreciate that. Freeholders DeFilippo, Shaw, and Crickus are on, and if I missed anyone else, I'm sorry. And we also have, because our municipalities are so important in this, and they're working hard, and we have a number of municipalities on. I want to thank them: Dover, Morris Township, Harding, Chester Township, Mount Arlington, Morristown, and Rockaway Borough, at least. And again, I apologize if I missed anyone, but wanted to acknowledge that, and sorry to interrupt, Senator.
That's okay. As I was just saying, there is actually a bill in the State House that would require mortgage companies to tack that deferral, that 90-day deferral, onto the tail end of people's mortgages. Got to get it through both houses and onto the governor's desk. And if we do, hopefully he'll sign it.
That's great, thank you. We do have a caller, Colette, that you can bring in, and they have a question. They're on a phone, so they don't have the ability to type in a question in the Q&A feature here. The caller will come in with a question momentarily.
We should be able to hear the caller now.
All right, caller, go ahead with your question. No?
No.
All right. Well,
technical difficulties.
Oh, yeah, I was waiting for them to say first time, long time. Hey, Mike. Okay, so we're going to go to another question here. This probably would have been for Senator Pennacchio, but I think any of the senators could probably answer this one. I understand antibody testing is available in New York. Are we aware of any test sites for antibody tests in New Jersey or even Pennsylvania?
Not yet.
Nothing yet? Okay.
Not that I'm aware of yet.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
We have a comment here and a question from Steve Shaw, freeholder here in the county. He's thanking everybody. He says, it is key that Morris County get direct aid from $3.44 billion of CARES Act allocated for counties. The threshold for direct aid is counties of 500,000 residents, and Morris County is just under that threshold. The freeholders just passed a resolution on Wednesday asking for a fair allocation of the aid, and Senator Bucco with Senator Cody and Representative Sherrill sent a letter to the governor. How can we further press this most important issue is the question from Freeholder Shaw.
I will tell you, I know Morris County did get some, but I know there were 4 counties that got nothing. Sussex, Warren, Hunterdon, and Salem counties, because when the federal government put out, they used the formulas that, quite frankly, the 500,000 for counties, the 50,000 for one city within the county, and then another one which was considered, which was quote unquote principal cities. And one of the first things we said is, in lobbying with the governor does have some flexibility in what they can what he can allocate out. Ask him to make sure he uses that flexibility, and also with our federal colleagues, that you have to use a different formula. That you got to make sure that each one of the counties, particularly those that are hard hit. And I was just on a conference call with Congresswoman Sherrill, and she said that in this new round they do have some of that to make sure that the aid goes according to how hard your county has been affected.
Great, thank you. Question here, there's two questions in a row about education. One is under the CARES Act. There's a provision known as the Governor's Education Emergency Fund, or GEARS. The New Jersey will have approximately 69 million in discretionary funds to be used for K through 12 and higher ed, as public higher education has had their appropriations cut by 50% and are refunding to students collectively over 100 million for housing, food service, parking, and so forth. And since there were no reductions in K through 12 programs, here's the question: would you support using this fund to unfreeze some of the funds that have been frozen to date? And that goes out to all the senators on the call.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Listen, Mike, I think that, I think we recognize that our institution of higher education have been hit pretty hard as a result of this crisis. So we certainly need to make sure that we follow that. And I know Steve as the Republican budget officer and the members from our caucus on the budget committee will certainly be looking at each one of these issues as they begin the budget process. You know, I don't envy any of our Republican members on the budget committee this year. It is going to be a tough budget, but I know that that each of them are up for the task, and they get it. You know, so we're looking forward to that discussion, and but that's certainly an area that'll need to be addressed.
And the one thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to look at as much flexibility as possible, because it's almost like that scene. And I know I've probably talked to some of you about this, and the scene that It's a Wonderful Life, with Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed are going out of town, and they hadn't been out on, they're going on their honeymoon, and it's the run on the bank, right? And so he goes back into the bank, and the first guy comes up and says, and Donna says, here's the $2,000. The first guy comes up and wants all his money. And then the next two people come up and they want $20. And then I think it's Mrs. Davis who comes up and says, can I have $17.50? He leans over the counter and kisses her. And that's where we're going to be, is what is it that everybody needs in order to get through this crisis? And that's where we're going to be.
Yeah, exactly. So dovetailing on that, here's something interesting from the County College of Morris, and that they trained 50% of the nurses in Morris County and 90% of the radiographers, respiratory therapists, and the hub of manufacturing and technology training and more. And I guess it's a similar thing is that, you know, they want to know how can we support the recovery? So approximately when will we know the amount of our reductions? And I think you pretty much answered that already, or went into that.
And Mike, one thing real quick on that. We really want to give a shout out to Tony and the County College of Morris, because they have really stepped up with respect to the testing site, even with Morris and Sussex County, as well as obviously the great work that they do all year long. But they've been a tremendous partner in this. And I want to thank, I know Tony can't speak right now, but I really want to thank him immensely.
Yeah, Tony, and they are a gem in the county. There's no question.
Yeah, I agree. We are so lucky to have that facility, not only for the county, but for our students. You know, the opportunities that the County College of Morris gives to our young folks is amazing. And, you know, everything that we can do to support the college, you know, we're all behind that, and so are the county freeholders, by the way, who do a great job in supporting CCM as well.
I just want to add to that along the lines of the great job County College does. They're involved a lot in the supply chain that Senator Oroho talked about before.
Exactly.
And if you could speak in terms of now that there's going to be an emphasis, which we hope persists when this is over, to bring our supply chain back domestically so we don't get caught up in these kind of international issues. We want New Jersey to benefit from that. And and the manufacturing caucus have been doing a lot in that regard.
Yep.
And how do we keep those resources when things are getting cut, looking to long-term growth to make sure that that doesn't get cut when everything else does?
Well, I got to tell you, Alan, one thing, and we've got a terrific asset in John Kennedy, and you work with John, quite a bit, and he's been working well with his manufacturers. He's been looking for and advocating for additional federal money. I know they got some, but quite frankly, I know that they're working on plans with respect to our whole supply chain management. As I said before, we can't have the low, unfortunately, a lot of times in the United States, we've made all these expensive, high profit margin, technical machines, but yet we don't necessarily make the, 1/10 of 1 cent cotton swab that you need to operate the machine. And so, you have the breaks and chain there, but so we're going to have, I believe, from a national security issue, is that to say, okay, we have to make sure that, just like I said, in investing, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. You can't have all your supply coming from one particular country, and you have to, quite frankly, you got to make it, allow a lot of that yourself.
Do you think the state will still be able to sustain some support for CCM and the other workforce development, or you think we're going to have to depend on the federal government?
No, I think so. I actually, one of the things I think we'll do is, listen, those organizations and people that stepped up to help us during this crisis, it's going to be tough. I'm not going to lie to anybody. It's going to be tough, but that's something we're going to remember. And I'm sure Senator Bucco and Senator Corrado and Senator Pennacchio and everybody, would agree.
Well, I mean, for us, the County College of Morris was always ahead of the curve, right? They started helping the manufacturing industry early on. So as our economy starts to change as a result of this crisis, the college is well positioned to be able to support that new economy. And I think that that's going to be part of the reasons that we will all use to fight for additional funding for the college, because they are well positioned to start filling the ranks with educated students into these positions that are going to be needed to move the manufacturing industry forward.
Great.
Fantastic. Another question here for all of the senators, and this is on everyone's mind. Do you think the malls, the Jersey Shore, the Rockaway Mall, will be closed all summer, the businesses around Lake Pennacchio? If yes, how will we deal with the economic impact?
I think at some time we have to put a plan in place to reopen the businesses. And we have incredibly smart business people, and they will come up with the protocols with safety, first, to reopen their businesses. And that's why they have to be included in the conversation. We have to have benchmarks. We have to give people hope that there is light at the end of this pandemic tunnel. And if we don't start doing that now, shame on us. It's something we have to start doing now. So I think, yes, businesses will reopen. It's going to be a little different than it used to be with different industries, whether it's getting your hair done or going to restaurants, but we'll figure it out. We're pretty smart business people in this state, and they'll show us the way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, even for the marinas on Lake Pennacchio, it doesn't make a lot of sense that we're telling these marinas they can open and allow private people to take their boats out, but yet they can't rent boats to somebody who comes to their marina. I mean, if we were to establish protocols for occupancy limits on those rental boats and cleaning of the rental boats, as they do anyway, we should be able to allow them to rent boats to the general public. There's no difference than having people on a boat, whether it's just a private boat or a rented boat, provided you limit the number and you take the precautions necessary to keep people safe.
I think there's going to. I absolutely agree with Senator Corrado and Senator Bucco. I think there's obviously, and everybody knows, there's going to be a new normal. I think we know how to do that. I know BIA is working diligently with their whole coalition to put these plans on the governor's desk. But the one thing I would actually really hope for is that Rutgers, would love to see, the Rutgers University be one of the big game changers in this whole thing with this saliva test. That it's a very rapid test, and I think that's going to be one of the game changers. So if anybody out there is a spiritual guy like myself, say a few prayers, say a lot of prayers that it works.
Just anecdotally, I'll just add quickly, because someone mentioned the shore, and some of you know that my wife took me from my beautiful home in Morris Township to the Jersey Shore where I am now. And so I've been involved with some of the municipal meetings here. And my mayor in my Monmouth County town said that they're talking to other shore mayors and hoping for July 1st opening. But it really takes vigilance of everyone, the same with golf courses and in stores, and to monitor, because Sunday was a nice day. They have the beaches open. They close the boardwalks because they don't want people to touch railings and so forth. But a bunch of knuckleheads assembled by the beach and were not observing social distancing. So they had to close the beach for that time. And it turned out we thought they were knuckleheads from out of town. They were just our local residents in our small town. So it really takes vigilance of everybody. And we had some monitoring suggestions, I know, on the chamber website, and BIA has those, that it really takes, and in your businesses, I know all our businesses are going to enforce these things, but you need to document it too. You need to have written policies, and you need to make sure that you follow procedures and are keeping logs that you're following the procedures and monitoring things, because otherwise people will get shut down. We also, what happened St. Patrick's Day, there was a ton of people at the bars, and then they closed the bars down, and we don't want to have that happen when they start opening things up with stores and so forth.
Great. We have a few more questions, and I believe we do have Dr. Iacono on the phone. Colette, if Tony, you're out there, Colette will open your phone, and just, I know you had another comment or question if you wanted to jump in. In the meantime, while we're waiting on that, I will go to one of the questions in the Q&A. Oh, is that you, Tony?
It is. First of all, I want to thank Tilcon and our chamber for hosting this. And I just want to thank Alan for the important work he does, and to our senators for the continued support. You're on our campus. You know what we do, the importance of what we do, and know that our commitment to making sure we are a major part of the recovery has not changed or wavered. We hear you, Senator Oroho and Senator Bucco. We know that there will be cuts, but we just ask that please fight for us, please help us, for us to do as much as we can. If the cuts are profoundly deep, it would severely compromise the work that we're going to be able to do for Morris and the surrounding counties around us. So please keep that in mind.
We will.
Thank you so much. Thank you for what you're doing. And Senator Bucco, I'll reach out. We're producing face shields and masks at the college. We're happy to do all we can to support the firefighters that you speak of also at the firefighters' home, okay?
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate all your help.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dr. Iacono. Okay, back over to these questions. There's a couple more left in the question and answer session here. This is to all of the senators. If a constituent is still having unemployment claim issues and still didn't receive their unemployment or were furloughed, should we send those folks to your legislative offices? And do you know the turnaround time of Department of Labor responding regarding the claim issues?
Yes, the answer to that is yes, Mike, at least to my office. I have one staff member, my chief of staff, who is in my legislative office. He's the only one that's allowed there. And he is answering the phones. To date, we've probably fielded about 180 unemployment issues and helped to process them through the system. It is taking, the process isn't fast. You know, it's sometimes up to weeks to get it through, but yes, they should reach out to our legislative offices, and to the extent that we can get it done for them, we will. Like I said, but it's not going to be a quick process. It's a slow turnaround, but we are able to get the harder cases into the unemployment office, into the Department of Labor to get those issues addressed. I would suggest that people first try to get through the system as it's set up. Give yourself some time. Don't expect it to be immediate. You know, like we said before, there's almost 1 million claims that have been filed, and the system just isn't designed to handle that. So, you know, give the system a chance to work. And if you get to a point where you look at it looks like you're at a dead end, then reach out to us and we'll do what we can to get it processed for you.
And I would just echo those statements as well. Sorry, Senator Oroho. I would say don't wait. Reach out to us. Even if you just email our offices, we are monitoring our emails 7 days a week, pretty much up till 11, 12 o'clock each night, you know, and all day as well. And we will forward your information, and all of our offices are tracking every constituent that comes to us. And making sure that their claims are getting processed. It is frustrating. I actually think the 20% is low based on the volumes that we're seeing in our offices.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think 60% of the claims have been processed yet. I understand that they were inundated, and these are historic numbers for unemployment claims, but we're more than happy. We want to work with you to make sure that you get what you're entitled to.
I just want to interrupt quickly and mention that that we originally were going to end at 12:15, but we have, I think, over 100 people on the call, so we're going to go till 12:30. Please go ahead, just to let people know.
Just something real quick, just like the other Senator Corrado and Senator Bucco had mentioned, it's almost exclusively what our office is doing, helping people through. Now, I do want to mention that when we spoke with the Commissioner of Labor, Rob Angelo, they had, you know, in a normal time, without the high unemployment that we have right now, it normally takes 2 to 3 weeks to get through the process, through the review. And obviously, when they started this time, people were working from home. They didn't have access to the technology. They did bring in 500 laptops for people. So hopefully, the commissioner said they're getting through quicker, but keep on them. But it's almost exclusively what our offices are doing now.
Great, thank you very much. Another question here is back to schools again, and it's, do you think schools will be back after May 15th or possibly June 1st?
I don't.
I want to take them?
I don't think so.
I don't either.
Nice.
I think, yeah, most likely not. Bless you.
Thank you.
All right.
But that raises a good point, and I know that there are a few senators that have started to look at the impact that this homeschooling is going to have on our student population, especially the younger students. And I think it's going to be important for the legislature to get some folks in a room to start looking at what the long-term impact could be as a result of our students, you know, having to be home and not being able to be in school and get the kind of attention that they would normally get during the course of a school year. So I think we need to focus on that. And I think that, like I said, I know that there's a few senators that have formed a committee to start looking at that. And I think that aspect of it is going to be very important.
Oh, very true. And it's one real quick story. I had a superintendent had called me, and before this whole thing started, one of the parents were after them to close the school, and they hadn't done it yet. And then when the governor announced to close, then probably about a week ago, the same parent went to the superintendent and said, "You got to open back up again. You got to open back up again." So.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Thank you. One other, more of a comment, and it's a person thanking all of the senators, assembly people for working together during this crisis and the local governments. Person is asking, I know both the legislature and the administration have been trying their best to come up with ideas to assist local government. I would like to encourage your continued efforts and in working with the statewide government associations, professionals to solve issues for our towns and school districts. So I guess what they're really asking here is, encouraging you to continue to work with the various entities at the federal, state, local, and professional private levels.
Mike, I didn't see any more questions. I don't know if there were, I think we have time for a couple more questions if people want to quickly put them in. In the meantime, I just want to say that, as I said before, BIA and the Chamber have, and the Morris, or the New Jersey Chamber, I'll say too, have very good resources. Also, I don't think I mentioned, I heard from Christine Myers, the former Morris freeholder, who was the SBA representative, and is mentioned, if you go on the SBA website, there's a list of PPP banks, because I know that some are now, my bank, or some banks I applied to said you had to be, you had to already have an account by February to apply, and there's a list of banks where you didn't need to have an account before March to apply. So I wanted to pass that on. And again, check our resources, and we'll try to send you resources and check online, and perhaps Colette from the Chamber could email out just any follow-up from this that might be beneficial to the Chamber community.
Great. One more question coming in here. Just following up on Senator Bucco's comments earlier, there is currently a committee formed to begin backup business plan, and Senator, you did touch on that earlier, so this person's just following up on that question. The answer to that is,
Well, look, again, I want to thank the Chamber for agreeing to partner with me on this. You know, my understanding is we're going to try to have an initial kickoff meeting the beginning of next week, Tuesday of next week, where we can put everybody together, kind of come up with a mission statement, and get people to work. As Senator Oroho said early on, you know, the sooner we can get these recommendations onto the governor's desk, the better off we'll be. You know, I will work with Senator Oroho and Senator Sarlo to make sure that they have access to this information and can utilize it in their mission going forward with the administration. I think it's important for the county to have input into this policy making decisions, and I think that our entire delegation supports moving forward in that direction. So so I look forward to that, and I look forward to some great ideas and great policy perspectives coming out of this committee, so that we can get those things onto the governor's desk and give them something to think about.
Okay, do we have anything else, Mike?
looks like we lost you, Senator. Oh, you're back. Okay.
So, Mike, any other questions?
No more questions, Alan.
Okay, well, you know what? Maybe we'll, we went later than we had planned by about 5 minutes. So I'm sure people, I think from what I'm hearing, people are all busier, even though they're not commuting. So we'll let people get back to their kids' homework or their own work, or maybe take a nap. But thank you all for joining. And I want to thank, of course, Mike for his leadership with the Chamber, and Megan Huncher for her leadership, and Colette for helping out here. And yes?
Can I interrupt you? We do have Megan
Please.
Huncher on right now, and I think I'd like
good.
to bring Megan just for a couple
Please.
of quick comments here. Megan? Colette, can you unmute Megan?
While we're doing that, I'll just continue with my thank yous. Is that okay, Mike?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'd like to thank Chrissy Buteas and Chris Emmicholtz, who give great resources from NJBIA. Again, I encourage you to check their website, and I thank them for their support of the ELCs that we work so well with. And of course, I want to thank our panelists, Senator Bucco, Senator Pennacchio, Senator Oroho, and Senator Corrado. And we will hope to have Senator Cody, who couldn't be here, and Senator Kean, who had to miss back. And remember, on May 8th, we have Assemblyman Ora Dunn, and we'll have other programs coming up, so stay tuned for that, and whatever follow-up information we can get you on this, we will. Someone also asked me what that bill number was for that workers' comp bill we were concerned about. It's S2380. Do we have Megan?
Hi, Alan, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I just want to add to the chorus of thank yous to the senators for being on, for NJBIA for their presentation, for everyone's hard work. I know this is such a challenging time. Of course, our thoughts and prayers go out to all of you who are affected by this virus. New Jersey's been particularly hit hard, but we're looking forward to reopening the economy, and we're looking forward to working with all of you to do that in a safe and effective way. We're already starting to hear from many businesses, as Michael mentioned, and we're looking forward to meeting with them. And I believe Chrissy BIA has a survey for businesses to fill out. So, if you receive that, please fill it out. I actually did that this morning on behalf of the chamber. So again, thank you all, and hopefully we'll have another call before too long for another update. Thanks, Michael.
And this is Chrissy. I appreciate that. Yes, please, if you could fill out the survey, that would be very helpful to informing the recovery efforts of the state and to the documents that we're presenting to the administration, and also on the workers' compensation bill. If anybody has any questions, Alan, please feel free to send them my way as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. We're all a lot of business groups are working together, and the chambers always just work well with BIA and other chambers, Somerset Partnership, NJMEP, and we thank them. And also, I certainly want to thank Tilcon and Josh Benson again for their generous support.
Thanks, Alan.
Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, take care.
Okay, Mike, anything else before we end?
No, I think we're good. Thanks, everybody, so much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you. Have a great weekend, everyone.